welcome to another episode of In the Shop with Fitz Auto and Friend. Tonight we're going to follow up to the part 1 of installing the fuel surge tank, which, as a reminder, we got the bulkhead fittings in, dropped the gas tank out, and got my surge tank in. In between the two videos, my amazing uncle came over and actually helped me wire in everything. As you can see here, we've got the wire running. Can't even tell that really anything's been done, and it should run just like a stock car, just with 2 fuel pumps. But tonight, in this part, we're going to mount the fuel pump and then hopefully get the gas tank back in so we can see what we're working with lines. So yeah, that's what's next. Alright, so we got our fuel pump. It's a Walbro GSL 391. That flows enough fuel for what I want to do. I think they advertise it as it's enough for like 300 or 400 boosted horsepower, so that's plenty for this car. So got it wrapped in its little sleeve and the mounts that they recommend. I'm going to mark out the holes, drill them, and get this installed so we can kind of figure out where the lines need to run from there. So, as before, gonna try to line this up as best as possible. Put a little Sharpie dot in both of those, and then drill some holes. And I'm not gonna film it because it's too loud. Alright, so now the pump is mounted. We drilled the 2 holes, got it in the sleeve, got the mounts. Basically, it's in a good spot for the feed to come out from here, go into there, and then from here to whichever of the 4 fittings we decide it should go into. So our next step is going to be putting the gas tank in so we can actually make sure that these 4 are indeed the fittings in the right spot. So the next shot's going to be under the car. Alright, so we're about to get the tank lifted back in place, and you can't see it on the camera, but we actually were smart and jacked the car up this time, so there's definitely more room, which, as you saw in part 1, you can get it out if it's off the ground, but you gotta get a lot of angle on it, and that was annoying.
I don't know if that was us. Was it?
Like where it lines up in the Bernard Bird.
Oh god. Oop.
Oh well. Thank you. But anyways, so it's gonna be loud, so I can go grab that in instead of walking it over. Okay.
Straps out the way.
Not really. I mean, you can bend this shit out of them.
Yeah. And we're gonna need to get.
Yeah.
Get over more to the
Line
one.
line it up, yes.
Go a hole.
Can you see it from where you are?
The hole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so this part's just a lot of finagling. As you can see, we have tons of wood blocks to get the jack underneath it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video and we'll just cut back to it once it's in the car so you guys don't have to watch like half an hour of us struggling to get this in the car. Alright, so after much difficulty, the jack is holding the tank in, and rather than tighten the stupidly long bolts in with a ratchet, we went with this guy. So, about to get loud, but it's going to be one bolt in, and then we're going to try to struggle and get that other bolt in. So, here we go. Should be set to tighten, so just don't over tighten it, but I mean, don't under tighten it either.
I got you. Could you come down here with like a camera light?
Yeah.
I can't see shit.
I got you.
That kind of works right there.
Go ahead. I just watched the thing like jump up like crazy.
Okay, I think with one more. Yeah. Alright, we're in.
Is that good? You can't get any. Does that look done?
Let me see.
Wiggle. Can you wiggle the strap?
Nope.
Okay, then it's in there. Give it one more for good luck.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. That's good. Okay. Come on out. See what you want. Alright, so that's one in there. We'll kick back the video when we're tightening the other one. Right. Tank back in. Nice and tight. My favorite torque spec. Good and tight. So now the next step will be to create the hard stainless lines that are going to go in the trunk and connect this mess together. And then we'll be doing the rubber lines under the car, and then fingers crossed, knock on wood, jump in a circle 3 times, whatever the hell you do, this car will start within the week. Hopefully. Yeah, so we're going to lower the car down and then hop in the trunk. Said hop in the... Alright, so now that we got the gas tank back in Roshi, we're going to start hooking up the lines in the trunk from the tank to that. So I got my bag of stupid expensive fittings and the hose. And the tools you'll need for this, you're going to need like a little mini hacksaw, some kind of vise or something to hold the hose where you want it straight, because you want those cuts as straight as possible. in order for those fittings to work out well. And then you'll need some kind of wrench to tighten everything. You can either use the aluminum wrenches that are meant for AN fittings, or you can use just like a normal wrench, as long as you're real careful so you don't strip or break the fittings. And if it's got the chrome plating on it, that's better because it won't scratch the hell out of them. But if you're like me, you really don't care if it scratches stuff up. But yeah, I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna measure up the hoses and how to cut them and assemble them, and I'll pretty much show you step by step on the first one, and then I'll just kind of do the other ones off camera and then show what it looks like finished up. Alright, so step one, I'm going to be trying to get a straight fitting that's going to go on the bulkhead over here onto the hose. So you separate it out into your two parts. And I'm going to just start with the whole roll of hose. And that way, y'all can see me. I'll start with this whole roll of hose, and that way I can just kind of cut it as I go and then make sure it works out great from there. So, be right back. When I got this cut at the shop, they kind of pinched the end and grabbed some pliers so I can squeeze it and get it fit in here. Alright, so I got it mostly back circular, and it's kind of hard to see in the camera, but basically when you've got these fittings, you can see where the thread starts, and you want to push the hose up to that part before you start threading in the other bit. We have to. This may take me a minute because this hose is a little janky on this end. And these fittings are tight. They need to be. They're not easy to assemble, and that's somewhat on purpose because you don't want this shit leaking. There we go. As close to circular as we can. I may end up just having to cut. I think what I'm going to end up having to do is cut this end off, since it's just all kinds of gacked up right now. Let's try the other end here. Hoses have two ends for a reason. See if we can't get it back mostly circular there. Pull this out of the car. Give myself a little more room to work here. See what we can't make happen. There we go. Alright, so I really highly doubt y'all can see what's going on here. But I managed to get it started. And I'm going to need to get a wrench or something to turn it down because, as I was saying earlier, they're a real tight fit on purpose. So I'll be right back once I've got a wrench to start pushing this in. Alright, found myself a wrench. 11/16 fit that other side, not the side I need. So I'm gonna go get the 3/4 since that is literally the next step up, and that should allow us to kind of wiggle the fitting back and forth down onto this hose. Alright, so 11/16 fits the end that'll go in here, and then 3/4 fits the end that goes on the hose since it's slightly larger. And basically what I'm doing is, as I'm rotating it, I'm pushing up on the hose and pushing down with my thumb on the fitting to try to just kind of drive her down in there. show you guys how we go about the next step. One more. Okay, so you want it, it'll basically get real hard to turn once you get it where it's seated up against the threads. I'll try to show it to the camera. Literally no idea if you can see that. So then the next step, we're gonna take a piece of tape. In this case, it's just green electrical tape because that's what I've got. I'm gonna put gonna wrap a piece basically right at the base of the fitting you just put on, like so. And then you're gonna start putting this threading in. And the reason the tape is here is not for like holding anything, it's to make sure you see where it is up against there, and you want to make sure you don't start pushing this stainless hose out of the fitting, because then it's not going to connect like it's supposed to. Basically, you just get that bad boy started. And start twisting it in there. And it turns out the nut we twist on is actually 3/4. So, I'm going to just use this guy here. When you want to make sure that these are not cross-threaded at all, because that will go very bad, and then you'll be depressed that you just fucking destroyed a $15 fitting. So far, so good. I'm kind of stopping every few turns just to make sure that nothing's backing off here. As you can see, we're making pretty good progress. And when it comes down to it, you want it to basically be like a millimeter between this nut and this face here. Probably break out my vise here in a second. I can start tightening this in a little bit better. Yeah, I'm gonna go get the vise, and you do not want a vise on these fittings, on the hose, and then get another wrench to hold that. So I'll be right back with a vise, and then I'll keep going. Alright, so a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Got this little, what was a bench top vise, you know? And it appears that, there we go. I say it appears broken, but it's just old. Just gonna put this in. Make sure we're not catching the fitting. And try not to pinch the hose too much. There you go. And take your wrench and just alright. So as I said before, I should probably get another wrench to hold that, but I'm not sure I got another 3/4, so I'll be right back. Alright, so turns out a 19 is a pretty good fit. It's a little looser than I would have liked, but we're going to see how it does holding it. I may go grab my 18 and see how that fares. So far this is working, since the 19 is being used just to hold it. We're not using it to torque anything. I'm checking my tape every turn now that we're getting down to the wire here. just loose here. It has not moved, so we're on the right track with this. So closer. Put my 19 back on. And okay, now it's getting to where it's a little tight. You can feel it squeezing into the rubber down in there. This is the part where you start worrying about it pushing out quite a bit. So, and where you need to start paying attention to how far down you're going, so you don't start stripping these. So I haven't pushed it out, so that's good. Okay, now camera right here. See things from my angle. See the tape hadn't moved. Ignore that. See how close we're getting there? We're getting real close to that gap being as tight as we need. And this end is supposed to stay loose because this is how you attach it to the other fittings. So, I'm gonna tighten the vise just a little bit more to hold that better. Slip in my 19 here. Now I'm gonna take it real slow tightening this to make sure that I don't over tighten it. Doing like half turns now. Getting pretty close. Give her one more. And if you want it to look real professional, you'll line up the two faces you've been tightening on. Just looks a little more like you put some extra time into making the hose and stuff, you know. Getting all shaky here. Alright, so there you have it. One hose end complete. See how there's basically just enough room to get your fingernail in there? That's what you want. And the tape did not move, so we can go ahead and take it off if I can. But now, what we're going to do is we're going to connect this end to one of the bulkheads and then take my 90-degree fitting here, stick it on the surge tank, and then measure it up so we can go ahead and cut it. And then once that's cut, be able to put the 90 fitting on, and hey presto, you've built a hose. Really should have called this video series, hey look, here's how to turn a fuel pump replacement into a freaking month-long ordeal. So okay. So the first one we're going to do is going to be my feed from the gas tank. And obviously everybody's got a feed different, but we're going to document mine. I'm going to use this. The two lower ones are going to be the feeds, and the two upper ones are going to be the returns. So basically, I apologize for the hose hitting everything. 8 foot of hose is a lot in this type of truck. Basically, just get it on there. Come a little loose. I'll need to tighten those up. Actually, the cool part with AN fittings is they really don't need more than like quote unquote like finger tight to be good. So basically I'm not going to do it real tight right now because we're still making everything. And when it comes time to final tightening on everything, when it's the A end to A end, I'm probably splurge and buy the actual wrench. So now we got one of these boys. It's got the same connection as that straight one, but then it just goes to an elbow. The elbow just connects on like so. I'll probably point it just a little bit. So now what we'll do, we'll take the hose, and you got to keep in mind you can't just put the hose at the end of the fitting. You got to keep in mind it goes up at least to the bottom of there. Let me take it off and see how far this thread's going on this side. The threads are about halfway of the faceted piece, so you want to account for that. Because you'll end up with too short of a hose if you don't. Okay. Yeah, we need to tighten up these bulkhead fittings. They're in there, but they're kind of wiggly. So, trick I read online is when you cut, you wrap the area with tape and it'll keep it from fraying as much. So, I've got that. I'm going to go grab my Sharpie to mark everything. I say I'm going to go grab my Sharpie as I walk off, and I think, oh, I thought it was in me. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, party people, I found a Sharpie. So, as I was saying, I'm going to wrap tape around where you want to cut, because it'll keep it from fraying. At least that's the theory. So we'll go ahead and figure we'll put it right about here. I want to make sure the tape is on there good and tight. Hold all this phrase in. So then line it up and we'll cut about halfway through it. Okay, so now we got that mark made. Go ahead and free this hose from down here. Pull it out of the car. Bring y'all with me. And it's pretty tight. And then I'm using a mini hacksaw with a metal blade on it. Well, obviously it's a metal blade, but it's a metal cutting blade. And when you cut it, you do not want to be like, ah! You want to like real lightly just let the blade do its job. Just real. The strands really aren't that thick, so you don't need to force it. And the slower you go, the easier it is to try to keep everything nice and squared up. I know there's some of you that are going to say in the comments, why don't you just use a cutoff wheel? That's because I like my neighbors, and I'm not going to try to fire up a cutoff wheel on Sunday morning. And there's something kind of satisfying about doing things in like old school way. Makes you feel a little more like a craftsman, and to me I feel more in touch with the project rather than hand. You can see it goes pretty quick. I mean, obviously if you're in a hurry, this is not the best way to do it. I was doing like bigger than A and 6, I'd probably leave the head off. Alright, so, as you just saw, it doesn't take too much time to do it with the hose. And the tape mostly did its job. Still got a little bit of fraying going on there from that very end where the hose kind of bent itself down. But not too bad. Nothing that can't be cleaned up with some wire snips. So now, I'm going to just stick it back in there, make sure that I didn't cut it too short, even if I... That is perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so literally the same process I did to put that straight piece on, we're going to use on this one. And it's funny because, so, one end's black, one end's the red and blue. The red and blue was that because that's all they had when I realized I needed 2 more 90s, but it actually kind of works out because it's going to be basically red and blue denotes the lines that go to the stock tank, and then all black lines go to the front of the car. So it actually kind of was a happy accident kind of situation going on there. Alright, so these little ones that kind of got out of hand up here, I think I'm going to have to Alright, that feels pretty good and solid to me. Go ahead and take my tape off, which did not move at all. And hey presto, we have ourselves an AN line. One down, 3 more to go. And as I said earlier in the video, I'm basically just gonna knock these out and then I'll show you the finished product in the trunk when that's done. Well, okay, I said I would come back when I got the hard lines done, and boom, they're in there. And look at my surge tank, it's beautiful. But yeah, everything's good to go there. We ended up getting some AN6 washers to secure everything, so no chance of it wiggling. Like, it wiggles a little bit, but obviously it's not gonna fall out anymore. All this stuff is tightened back up. So now we are under the car working on putting the rubber line in, these little adapters that we made work to get it down to 5/16. And that's pretty much where we're at. Got Brendan in here working on getting hose on the fresh pump hanger that I ended up having to replace because the old one was a pile of hot garbage. So got the new hotness, getting this lined up, gonna get it in the tank, get it in the tank under the car, and then get it hooked up. So right now we're just putting hose on here, putting really honestly way more than we need, and we're just gonna clamp it and we'll cut it once it's under the car because I don't want to deal with trying to like fit hose up here and all that stupid shit. So gonna get that done and then we'll cut back when we're under the car and go from there. Alright, so under the car here. There we go. As you can see, we got one of these little adapters already in here. And then this one, we'll put the adapter closer to the line it's going on. So I'm just gonna get these other ones installed. And I use a wrench, but you don't want to go super tight. It's like just snug. So now here's the last one. And the reason we did this is because when you're using AN6, the hose line, the AN to hose you can get is 3/8, and this car used 5/16. So we had to step it down. There we go. Now those are on there, and this one doesn't have a hose clamp because that's just the return coming from the surge to the tank, so it's not really under a lot of pressure. So now that we've done that, next step is to get the gas tank up in here and try to get all this connected back up. So we'll cut back in it once the tank is back up in here. Well, we got back at it. We got everything wired up in here. If I can get that to focus. No more leaks. Getting the wheel back on. We're going to take it on a little test drive, make sure everything holds up. Everything's clamped. Should be good. And then got my co-pilot and we're going to autocross this weekend.